The company running America's largest power grid has admitted, in writing, that it can no longer guarantee enough electricity to reliably meet demand. Your bill saw this coming. It has been rising for 2 years, and not for the reason you think. Someone ordered all of it. By the end of it, you'll know exactly who ordered the power you're paying for, because it wasn't you. Pull out your last electric bill. Somewhere below the total there's a line most people never read. It might say supply, it might say capacity. It's the price of simply reserving power before you switch on a single light. That line is where this story hides. Since 2020, the average American home's electricity price has climbed about 42%, from around 13 cents a kilowatt hour to almost 19. Fuel and storms drove the early climb. What's arriving now is different, and it lands on households that have nothing left to give. This month, Gallup measured a record. 55% of Americans say their financial situation is getting worse, and the cost of energy, housing, and healthcare sits at the top of the worry list. The electric bill isn't a line item anymore. For millions of people, it's the month's swing vote. Something specific happened. It has a date, an address, and a paper trail. To find it, you have to watch the strangest auction in America. Every July, the grid operator PJM runs an auction almost nobody watches. PJM manages the grid for more than 67 million people across 13 states, Chicago to Washington, D.C. Its job sounds simple. Make sure that 3 years from now, on the hottest day of the year, there is enough power for everyone. So it buys promises. Power plants bid, pay me this much and I promise to be running 3 years from now. That promise has a price, and every household in those 13 states pays a slice of it, on that line in the bill. The machine exists for a good reason. Grids that don't reserve power in advance are grids that fail on the worst afternoon of the year. The auction was designed as insurance, which is what makes what happened next so strange. Because starting in 2024, the price of that insurance didn't drift, it detonated. In 2024's auction, the price of a promise was $29 per megawatt day. 1 year later, $270. The year after that, $329, the maximum price regulators allow. The auction hit its own legal ceiling. In 2 years, the price of reserving power rose more than 11 times. 11 times. Nothing in your house explains that. So what does? PJM has an independent watchdog, the Market Monitor, whose whole job is explaining prices. Its analysis traced the spike almost entirely to one cause: data centers, the ones already built and the ones merely projected. The buildings that train and run artificial intelligence. They don't sip electricity the way a factory does. They drink it like cities. A single large campus can demand more power than every home in a mid-sized town combined, running at full draw, day and night, all year. And the orders keep coming. PJM's own forecast. Peak demand grows by roughly 32 gigawatts by 2030, and about 30 of those 32 gigawatts are data centers. Officials telling the consequences put the stakes for ratepayers across those 13 states at around $100 billion. $100 billion, flowing through a line on the bill that most people have never once read aloud. In Maryland alone, the capacity costs passed to ratepayers jumped from $2.2 billion to $14.7 billion in a single auction cycle. Baltimore households saw about $21 a month land on their bills from that one auction. $21 every month for power they never asked for. And here is the part that should stop you. Much of that demand does not exist yet. The auction prices promises against forecast demand, and the forecast is built from data center projects that are announced, requested, or merely speculative. Officials across PJM states warn the projections are inflated. You are paying today for the possibility that someone builds a server farm in 2028. Which raises the obvious question. Fine, but surely the data centers pay their own way. In March of last year, researchers at Harvard Law School went looking for the answer. They read nearly 50 regulatory proceedings, the actual paperwork behind utility rates for data centers. What they found? The biggest customers often don't pay the public rate at all. They sign special contracts, bespoke deals between the utility and the data center. The terms? Confidential. The approvals? Often a few conclusory pages, where an ordinary rate case runs to hundreds. And when a special rate is set below what it actually costs to serve that customer, the researchers write, the difference doesn't vanish. It moves onto everyone else's bills. A data center doesn't haggle with the market the way you do. It doesn't have to. It negotiates in private, and when the math tilts, you cover the spread on a line you never read. Here's the question under the question. Why would a utility agree to that? The Harvard researchers' answer is in their title, extracting profits from the public. A regulated utility earns its profit as a return on what it builds. More data centers mean more substations, more transmission, more capital, more profit. The growth is theirs. And the risk? The chance the demand never shows up. The discount that doesn't cover costs. That part gets socialized. The upside is private. The downside is on your bill. Which brings us back to where we started. July 14th, 2026. PJM publishes the results of its newest auction, buying power for 2028. The price, $325. At the legal cap again. But the price isn't the news. 7 months earlier, in December, something happened that had never happened in the grid's history, even paying record prices, $333 that time. The auction came up short of its reliability target, the first shortfall ever. And July 14th confirmed it was no fluke, short again, 6.8 gigawatts below the target, roughly 7 large power plants worth of missing promises, twice in a row. Read that the way an accountant would. The system that sets your bill just paid its maximum legal price for not enough power. The machine built to protect the grid has found its ceiling, and the ceiling is billed to you. Now the part almost nobody covers, because it's buried in a regulatory docket in Columbus, Ohio. Last July, Ohio's Utility Commission approved a new rule for one of the state's biggest utilities, new data centers. They must pay for at least 85% of the power they claim they will need, whether they use it or not, for up to 12 years. Collateral required, exit penalties included. The regulator's reasoning, stripped of jargon, the ones who order the power should be the ones who pay for it. One state looked at the machine and simply reset who gets the bill, which proves the most important fact in this entire story. The way these costs land on you is not physics. It is a choice made in proceedings most people never hear about. And the choice is now being fought over, state by state, in dockets with no cameras. Maryland's Consumer Council warned its customers face bill hikes of up to 24% from the auction and is pushing back in filings. Baltimore County published a study of the data centers at its own doorstep 4 days ago. Other states are drafting their own versions of Ohio's rule. None of this is settled, which means the next chapter of your bill is being written right now. So, your bill, that line, supply, capacity, whatever your utility calls it, now you can actually read it. It is the price of promises, power reserved years ahead at auction against a forecast increasingly written by data centers under contracts you are not allowed to see. If you live in those 13 states, the record prices started landing in June. This month's bill may already carry them. Everywhere else, the same machinery is being negotiated in your state's dockets right now. In public, if anyone looks, For a century, electricity ran on a simple deal. Everyone pays for the grid because everyone shares it. The data center age quietly rewrote that deal and mailed you the difference. The grid doesn't send its bills to the future, it sends them to you.